Welcome to Fertile Talks with Dr. Yemi Famuyiwa, a space where science meets the soul of fertility. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Montgomery Fertility Center, a unique concierge fertility practice in Rockville, Maryland. At Montgomery Fertility Center, we combine compassion with precision science to meet every individual's need. It is a place where you'll feel heard, supported, and truly cared for. If you're ready to begin your fertility journey or just need clarity on your next steps, give us a call at 301-946-6962 or visit us online at montgomeryfertilitycenter.com. And before we begin, I want to share something close to my heart. My upcoming book, The Quest for Fertility, coming spring of 2026. This is a must-read for anyone preparing for fertility, thinking about preserving it, or supporting someone on that path. What makes this book special is that it goes beyond the science. It's soulful, a story-driven exploration of real patients' journeys and how they found hope, healing, and strength through fertility challenges. If you'd like to join our Quest for Fertility support circle or get updates about the book's release, visit montgomeryfertilitycenter.com and send us an email. Now, let's dive into today's episode of Fertile Talks, where we'll explore the science, stories, and soul behind the journey to parenthood.
And welcome back to Sister Soul Sessions family, where we elevate entrepreneurs one soulful conversation at a time. I am your host, Brittany.
And I'm Brandy, and tonight we're diving into a topic that is just deeply personal to Brittany and myself. It's also scientific, it's cultural, spiritual, all at one time. And fertility, healing, and the journey to creating life.
Yes, we are so honored to welcome a powerhouse in reproductive medicine, Dr. Famuyiwa, founder of Montgomery Fertility Center in Rockville, Maryland, associate clinical professor at George Washington University School of Medicine, double board certified in OBGYN and reproductive endocrinology.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And if we could just have you give your introduction so that we can get to know you and a little bit about your fertility clinic.
So my name's Dr. Famuyiwa, as you rightly said. I'm originally from Nigeria. And growing up as a little girl, I've always wanted to be a physician. That's all I ever wanted to do. I knew it from age of 9. I was the child in the family that was always taking care of anyone who was sick. So I just dreamed of that. And so went through the school curriculum in Nigeria. Back then, we had what's called the A levels, which I don't know the equivalent of it, might be the IB here. And after halfway through that, I got admission to Kent State University in Ohio. So I came there and I was really laser focused on this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to get to medical school. Did a whole summer in Holland doing research. And then I went to medical school in Atlanta, Georgia. It was interesting 4 years. It was exciting, fascinating. And I loved Atlanta. But one of my good friends said, Yemi, you haven't really been around the US much. So go somewhere else. And if you still like Atlanta, come on back. So I applied all over and I went to residency in DC at Georgetown University Hospital. And I fell in love with the DC area. So when I was looking for a fellowship, I stayed local. I went to the National Institute of Health. And after my fellowship, I was busy doing research, bench work research. But I realized I really liked patient care more than I liked research. So I started my practice on a wing and a prayer. And it's been over about 26 years and more counting since then. Yeah. And so I'd love to teach as well. So I teach GW residents at Holy Cross Hospital. And I also teach PA students from University of Maryland. And I take interns from all over. And I've since then started my own podcast, Fertile Talks. And I do write a lot of blogs I have a YouTube channel, Montgomery Fertility. So my whole thing is just patient education, but actually for my patients, believe it or not. Because if I can educate them, half my job is done. So then I just open it up to the rest of the public. So I decided I wanted to write a book to encapsulate all of this. So my first solo book, I've written other books with other authors, is coming out in March. It's called The Quest for Fertility.
Yes. What a journey, and so much that you have learned in order to, teach everyone else. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking on that cross there and bearing that, because that was a lot of research that you did prior to, your own practice. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, sis.
Of course. Thank you. So your book begins with such a powerful line that being the quest for fertility is more than a book. It's a bridge between science, hope, and the deeply personal journey of creating life. So what
Yes.
inspired you to write this book?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What inspired you to write?
Oh, what inspired me? I think throughout the years, just the patients I've taken care of. And really, it's really not just the numbers. It's not just the science. It's not just the protocols. It's not just, oh, yeah, take this and come back in the morning. Everybody has a deeply personal story with their journey. And if you cannot connect with that story, sometimes you cannot deliver the best care for them. And what do I mean by the best care? I really enjoy meeting my patients. Um, I say I have patients from all over the world, and it's really fun, almost like I travel vicariously to all these places. And you have to connect with their story. You really have to. And when you do, you feel their pain. And sometimes this pain is not just medical. It's the emotional burden that they are walking around with. And if you cannot sort that out first, you really can't get to treat them. You really got to get to that for some patients. Yeah.
I wish more doctors took that approach, honestly. Like we were kind of speaking about earlier, we felt like, we were kind of just in and out. You don't really even get that personal story of what this means to you. With us having our own issues of having, our reproductive organs removed, had partials, things like that. I love that that's the way that you approach it. You share a story about how early in your career, you would literally write patients a prescription to go sit in the butterfly garden at
Yes, I
Wheaton
did.
Regional Park to
Yes,
just
I
breathe,
did.
to rest and feel peace
Yeah.
again. Why was that so
Yes.
important to you? And what did you see in your patients that made you take that approach?
You know, it's very easy because it's something that I do for myself. Like I love nature. I love being out in nature and I find it very soothing, very calming. And if you read, for instance, the Japanese, they have this thing called forest bathing, shinjuruki, they call it, where you go out. And because they believe that, well, they don't believe, they've actually shown that there are certain things that come off the trees. They call them phytokines, I call them. And some of these things do boost your immune system,
Wow.
right? So, because, trees themselves, they release sap or whatever that protects them against bacteria and viruses,
Right.
right? And if the trees don't do well, you have something come by and sweep all, like the ash trees were destroyed when they were invaded by some foreign beetles, right? So they have to protect themselves. And some of these they release in the oxygen. And also, nature gives oxygen. Nature is calm. And that calmness sort of filters into you. So it's something that I've always done. And I remember back then I started it as a joke. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? Here, go sit down on the butterfly garden.
Yeah.
Go, just relax. Just, sit. I've always loved to sit also by flowing water. Just go sit
Yes.
and let nature do its thing with you. And patients will come back and go, wow, that was a surreal experience. I really love that. And, I think in life we're so busy, and especially with fertility, not only busy with your other life, you're also stressed out
Yeah.
that we don't take the time to look at a beautiful flower and just enjoy it, enjoy the presence of it. we're so stressed out that our system is on fight or flight all the time.
Always.
And if we can get to a place where our parasympathetic system kicks in, so we're not so much in that stressful state, right? Then the cortisol starts to go down, the stress level starts to go down, something in you starts to heal.
Mhm. Very, very true.
Yeah, I like that. So, when you say fertility care must nurture the mind and soul just as much as the body, how did that philosophy shape this book?
It's throughout the book, I write stories. I share stories of real patients. Of course, I've anonymized it,
Mhm.
and let you see through their eyes, right?
Mm.
So when you see what this person is thinking, going through, and how they processed it, my hope is that you connect and you say, wow, I see my story in this. I see that. I see how this affected me. I never put a name to this thing before. Now I understand. And also, when you read some of that, sometimes it lets you see that you're not alone, right? Let me give you an example. I was in my office. I had a session with a couple yesterday, and I sat both of them down because the wife was on this kind of futile treatment pattern that I knew wasn't going to work, right? But she'd come back at time, and I was trying to figure out, was it her husband? What was it? Because they were an African couple. Was it the in-laws? I mean, what was beneath this um, push? So I sat them down and I talked to both of them, and I started to gather. The husband was extremely supportive, and it's like, I just want her to be happy. I'm happy with the one child we already have now, but I will do anything to make her happy. Um, and I said to her, do you hear what he's saying? Can you hear him, that he's supportive? And if you choose to move on to something else, he's right behind you. If you choose to call it a close, an end to this, he's right behind you.
Right.
And one of the things I always tell them is, when you close your front door, it's you and your partner and nobody else,
Mhm.
right? It's not auntie so and so. It's not your mom or your dad.
Right.
It's not the community. It's you. And then he shared with me, the husband shared and said, it's so funny. When I talk to a lot of my friends, and everybody's saying, oh boy, wow, yeah, this is what we had to do. But he said everybody's hush hush, so you don't really know, because patients will come back and say, well, I know this lady that just got pregnant and delivered, and she's 51 and she did fine with her own eggs. I'm like, you don't know, because they're not telling you everything they're doing,
Right.
right? So you need to work it out with you, with your partner, and your doctor. And I tell them, you need to come to you need to come to a solution that's going to allow you to sleep at night,
Mhm.
right? Not my solution. I can give you options. You now need to take those options and say what works for me personally, or what works for us as a plural, right? And everybody's solution is different. And you don't want to take somebody else's solution for yourself, because your journey is different. And that's what I put throughout the book. And I can tell you instances where I dig a little deeper and something else comes out.
Yeah, and you saying that, I know that you're sitting across from people who are carrying the fear, confusion, shame, even, and
Yeah.
hopeful, and the hope. How do those conversations help you with not only the tone of your book, but with their treatment? How do you get to that
Well,
part?
see, let me share another story with you. I had a lady who came to see me. I think this was many years ago. She was, and this I put in the story, in the book as well. She was like 30, between 30 and 32 when she came to see me. and she was trying to get pregnant, and she had a 15-year-old child. So I started talking to her and just, because I'm kind of nosy with my patients. Where are you from? Where's your background? What's going on? And then the story started to come out. She was originally from, I believe it was Sierra Leone during the war when she was a teenager. She was barely like 14, 15 herself. She and her sister, who was pregnant, had to run when the rebels were invading, and they ran, and as they were running into the forest, her sister went into labor, and her sister gave birth in the bush. And she, mark you, she was like 14, 15. So she was scared. She didn't know what was going on. And they could still hear the gun bullets flying not too far from them. So she said she took the baby as best as she could, but then watched her sister bleed to death, right? And then wrapped the baby up and started running because the bullets were still flying. And she said she ran and then ran into, I think she ran into some aid workers with the Red Cross, and they were able to help her. They gave the baby some formula. And needless to say, they did help her relocate to America. But that was so traumatizing for her that she raised the child as her own. She never told the child that you're actually my niece.
Yeah.
Right? It was something deep, locked away, so painful because it was tied to the death of her sister.
Yeah.
And as we were talking, and it all came out, and it all came out, and I was able to help her seek counseling and try to get over the pain. And that was the focus of part of why she couldn't get pregnant, because it was shortly after that she got pregnant on her own, really. And not only that, she was able to tell her niece child that I'm actually your niece and this is what actually happened with your mother. So they had to come to some closure. Their relationship got even better. And I guess some people have what is called the survivor's guilt.
Yes.
And they bottle it in. And that was part of her ongoing pain. So now if I hadn't taken the time to just sit down and just kind of shoot the breeze and kind of get to know her a little bit, she wasn't going to tell all that. She was going to tell you, yeah, my last menstrual period was this, and I tried for this month, and I used ovulation kit, and she'll tell you all the technical stuff, but she will never get to what was really painful on the inside. So sometimes you got to listen. You got to take the time. I mean, I have so many stories like that, so many that I put throughout the book.
And such a powerful story. Yeah. Because you don't realize, like we don't realize how big stressors, actually contribute to that, like our health and other things that we don't associate with that. So yeah, you helping her release that was actually releasing the womb. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
And as I'm listening to these stories, and I'm just like, why do we wait until like there's a crisis for us to learn about our bodies? Why do you think that is?
Because mostly we're not thinking about it, right? Mostly you're healthy, right? You're not in pain. You don't know where your uterus is in your body because it's not hurting. You don't know where your ovaries are located because there's no pain there. So you're going about life, you're young, you're full of energy. And sometimes when you're young, you have that almost, I'm an indestructible construct kind of mentality, right? And you just don't think anything could be wrong, right? I mean, you just feel good inside of you. Why would you suspect anything is wrong until you have a pain or you have something that you want and you can't get? It's not a focus. And sometimes when you're young and conquering the world and going about your business and starting new businesses and going to professional school and just life is happening, life is lifing, and it's the last thing on your body.
For sure.
And it's at last when you finally say, I'll give you another example. I have a patient. I'm not sure if I put this in the book or not. I'll have to check later on. That, when we come from Nigeria, you're told to go get your degree, go get your PhD, go get your MD, go be a lawyer, go be an engineer, go, 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 And so some people will put their life on hold while the expectation, especially in some communities where they gather and they all, contribute money to send one person to go get a PhD, and with the hope that that person is going to come back and help everybody else. And that person does become the successful professional, right? I have so many nurses like that. And then they turn back and the society helped them. So now they're taking care of all their siblings. They're taking care of all their nieces and nephews, and they're the breadwinner first. So then they're doing double shifts in the hospital, and they can't stop till the last one has gone to school. And like in this one patient's instance, she educated all her siblings, and then finally, when they're all educated and done, she's like, okay, now what about me, right? She gets married. Now she's 45. Now she has no eggs left, right? So now there's the agony and the regret. And I could tell you so many stories of people's lives. So it's not like they set out to deliberately wait, but sometimes things happen, or sometimes they're not aware.
It's horrible. It's so horrible.
It's so hard, yeah.
It is. I mean, obviously, you want your siblings to do well, but you also want to go ahead and pursue your own purpose. And I know you mentioned the expectation of like your family and your culture and getting into medicine. So I just wanted to know, like, what drew you specifically into reproductive endocrinology?
What made me do reproductive endocrinology? Oh, that's easy. So when I was in medical school, I was one of those that liked every single specialty, everything. I liked everything. I tried to like radiology. I was bored, but I liked so many things. So when it came time to decide what residency you were going to apply to, like, oh my gosh, I like so many things. I loved cardiology so much. I wanted to be a cardiologist. I didn't quite like internal medicine that much. I loved general surgery. I loved psych because I had a fascinating professor. I liked peds, but I was always crying over the kids in pain, so that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
So not if the kids are comforting me.
Right.
So then I finally said to myself, okay, if you like everything, what is the one thing that you actually had fun doing? And the minute I asked that question, it's like, bam, I knew it. OBGYN. I was having a blast. So I went into OB. I loved it. But then I liked the science part of it, the intellectual part. Right. What makes this tick? What makes the ovary function? How does the brain control the ovary? How does these parameters work out with the uterus? So it's the why this and why that and why this, that, just that curiosity led me more down a scientific path and went into reproductive endocrinology because I was fascinated with the science behind it. And that's one of the reasons why I actually did so much bench research until one day I'm like, oh my gosh, I love playing with mice and stuff. I did some monkey research, but I kind of like patient care. I like bonding with my patients. I love hearing people. I've always loved hearing people's stories. Sitting down with them and getting to know my patients. That has always been with me ever since I was actually as a kid, and like I said, and it just matured in medical school. It matured in residency. So I did not want to give that up. And I figured, well, let me go get this need to deal with patients out of my system. And if I still like the technical part, I can always go back to research or do some protocol work. And that hasn't happened so far. So
do you remember like that exact moment or patient where you felt like your purpose really lock in? Or was it like your first successful pregnancy under your care, or when did you feel that?
For fertility or for OBGYN?
For fertility.
No, it wasn't patient care. It was more science, like I said.
Mm.
It's a passion, right? It's a passion where you can sit down and just study pathways, and understanding, wow, what is cell division? How does the cell break up? How does the DNA merge? How does fertilization occur? What is so that's kind of a nerdish kind of.
That's beautiful. I love it.
So
And
it's a
so
nerdish kind of.
necessary.
Yeah, yeah.
So beautiful.
It is. I really am loving this, and I love your stories about your patients. And so you founded Montgomery Fertility Center, which is huge, by the way. I'm actually from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, awesome. Yes.
So
Awesome.
I drove through Montgomery County, really nice. What made you say at that moment, hey, you know what? I want to build a place where people feel seen, supported, and safe?
Yeah. So, sometimes you start on a journey and you don't, maybe if I knew all the things I would have to go through, I'd be like, oh my gosh, girl, don't do it.
Yeah, right.
But sometimes you're so ignorant and you're so excited with what you're doing, you don't know enough to be scared.
Mm.
Yeah. So I was just fired up. You couldn't have talked me out of it. You couldn't have. I mean, because I would stay up days reading about, how to start a corporation. I went to Montgomery County Medical Society, and they, were giving me resources and talking to me. I spoke to a lot of my friends, some of whom had started their own OBGYN practices, the ones that did well and the ones that didn't do well. So it's almost like when you're starting something like that, how can I say? It's like you're starting on a journey that is so exciting
Mhm.
that you don't know enough to be afraid,
Mm.
right? You're just doing it. You just keep going. I do remember my first patient that I did in my own practice, and they were
Mhm.
a couple that they were students and they were still struggling. I think he was trying to get through accounting school, and she was trying to get through nursing school,
Mhm.
and they didn't have much money, and they needed IVF, right? Because her tubes were blocked, and they had been turned down somewhere else because they didn't have a lot of money to afford it.
Mhm.
So, and then I was just starting out. So, hey, I said, okay, here's what we'll do. You don't have much money. I'm just starting out. Here, I'll cut you a break. I'll give you this amount, but here's what you're going to do, because I know you can't even afford the break I'm going to give you. Why don't both of you take on second jobs, put whatever money you're making in the second account, don't look at it, and call me
Right.
back in a year. And that's exactly what they did. And they came back to, now we can try the IVF. And I shout out to wherever they are right now, because I'm going to have a baby reunion. I hope they had twins. So I hope the twins are hearing me. Come for our reunion. Yay.
How
Next
amazing.
year.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, to have those reunions of all the families you helped. I love that.
Mhm. Yes.
And I know we spoke a little earlier about, you teaching, you being a professor. How does
Yes.
teaching the next generation of physicians influence the way you practice today?
Um, it's exciting for me because I see myself in the young ladies and gentlemen that I'm teaching, right? I was also mentored by other people. Someone taught me, someone encouraged me, someone gave me hope when I was about to pack it up and be done, right? Somebody came along and says, you can do this, and here's how you do it. So somebody built me up as well.
Mm.
If I can do that for other people and see the moment that my lessons connect and see what they turn out into, boy, that's like almost birthing my own child, isn't it? Right? It's so exciting and fulfilling when they come back and they say, this, you encouraged me, and here's what I've done. Some of my initial students are now professors themselves, right?
Wow.
Some of them have gone on to medical schools. I also teach PA students who have opened their own practices, and nurse practitioners who still refer to me, and they come and they tell me, wow, I will never forget my rotation with you. You took
Mhm.
the time. So someone said to me, you've got this. You belong here. You can do this. There will be detractors along the way, but you're made of turtle wax. Let it roll off you.
Love that.
You can do this, right? Someone, in all our lives, you've had models, whether they were personal or you read them in a book or you followed them, someone fed into you.
Mhm.
So I think that it is the most rewarding thing to do in life is to feed into others. And also, let me tell you something. When you teach, you learn,
Mhm.
right? Because you cannot learn or teach if you don't come from a place of learning. So if you want to stay abreast in all that you do, endeavor to teach. And I actually, for someone like me, it's really great because it forces me to stay, on top of everything I'm doing. So
Right.
yeah, you got to pass on knowledge.
Yes, for sure.
I love that ideology of like paying it forward.
Yep.
And of course, with your clinic being heavily on I'll say personalized fertility care,
Yeah.
what does personalized really mean in your clinic?
Personalized means that you are seen and heard,
Mhm.
seen and heard. And it's not just by me alone. So I always encourage my patients, really, when you come here, it's a twofer. You get all my staff with it,
Mhm.
right? So I cannot deliver all the care. I rely heavily on my staff. So when you see the compassion side, it's not just me, it's my staff. It's the nurse that takes the minute to pull a patient aside and say, I noticed you aren't feeling well today. It's my secretary that comes by and say, Dr. Famuyiwa, I noticed someone was crying in the bathroom. And I'll go get her back in here. So everybody's hyper vigilant. They're watching, they're listening because they all want the same thing, right? And one of the things that I share with my patients is, with my staff is, when anyone walks in the door, that's your sister, that's
Mhm.
your mother, that's your aunt, that's your brother, that's your uncle,
Yes.
that's your grandma on the phone. So, whichever way you want your mom, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your brother to be treated, that's the way you treat the patients.
For sure.
And that's
Wow.
because, and also when you pick up the phone, smile. Because when you're smiling, even though people cannot see you, they can hear your smile,
Mhm.
right? And of course there will be challenging days, right? But people are walking with a heavy load, and sometimes just that simple smile is all they need, and then it all comes out.
Mm. It's definitely a different approach. I've seen a lot of doctors, and I know that you have patients who come in overwhelmed. They're conflicted by different advice, maybe even cultural taboos. Can you walk us through a way that you help them navigate that noise and clarity and making sure they
Ah,
stay on their mission?
yeah. One of the things, like I said, is listening. And if for patients where you feel that, also we cannot let our own ego get in the way. So if I feel that I'm not deeply connecting, no matter what I say, I have been, I come up and I say to the patient, I don't think I'm communicating the way I feel I want to. I just don't feel that I'm connecting on that level. Would you mind talking to X and X and X?
Mhm.
I think I want to get you the best care, but I just don't feel I'm doing a good job by you at this point. Would it help if you were to talk to, then I bring a counselor in or bring a psychologist in to help? But if I can, just taking the extra moment to talk. Sometimes patients, if I feel a patient needs more time, I might say, why don't you come as the last patient of the day? So then I'm
Mm.
not under pressure because I have
Right.
somebody else, breathing down my throat. I'm like, come as the last patient of the day. I know there's a lot in your mind, and I'll give you all the time you need. I want to get to the bottom of what's going on, right? And sometimes they'll come out, and they'll tell you, or sometimes they'll say, I had a patient who was so distraught, when I first met her, and she came back a year later. I said, "Wow, you're so different. What happened?" She goes, "You remember you told me I needed to go talk to a counselor and get some help?"
Wow.
Yeah, she goes, "Yes, I did." I'm like, wow, what a radical change. So talking to a counselor, talking to a coach, just talking and getting to know the patient and trying to see what can help them the most.
Mhm.
Really, that's the key thing. And not letting our ego. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? I don't always hit it right, but know enough to know when you're not hitting it right, and maybe someone else can do a better job connecting with that particular patient.
Being that self-aware definitely does put you at a higher standard, like I said, with doctors that I've had experience with, because most of the time it's like we didn't even build a rapport to know if you're the right doctor for me. So I really appreciate that you take that time.
Yeah,
It's very important in the health of the person overall
yeah,
to get to the place that they want to with their body. So
yeah,
I truly do appreciate that. And your book specifically takes readers behind the scenes of modern fertility treatments. I
yeah,
was looking at your page about IVF, PRP, stem cells, donor
yeah.
eggs, and more. What advancements excite you the most right now?
I think that um, we should be looking towards maybe potentially reversing aging in eggs somewhere down the line. That may come. Um, I know there's a lot of work being done with stem cells,
Yeah.
particularly. It's all, being done science stage. I think that, there are people trying to create like frameworks where they can build and have tissue growing in the lab, and then having certain signals direct the growth of the cells to either egg or sperm or uterus that's coming out.
Wow.
With that, you got to balance it with ethics. I think that artificial intelligence is helping us incredibly be more efficient and better so that we can hopefully increase our success rate. So that's something to look out for. I think that the field of genetics is expanding in ways where we can better able to predict the outcome in an embryo, for instance. Of course, you want to select for things like genetic diseases that are not compatible with life, right?
Mm.
So you want to know that. But now they're even talking about, and I don't know that this is efficacious at the moment, or it's just, but trying to use the same system to predict which embryos might likely end up with diabetes in the future, high
Yeah, I've
blood
seen that.
pressure in the future, or schizophrenia in the future. So they sound like sci-fi, something you might see on Star Trek, but you never know. In a
For
couple of
sure.
years, Star Trek might come down.
Yes, for sure. And
Yeah.
you're right. But genetic testing can sound very scary. But
Yes.
you explain it as empowering. Now,
Yes.
I was actually just watching a small documentary about how they give grading to your embryos, showing,
Correct.
like you said, how likely the child is to even be smart, things like that. How does it help families make safe and healthy decisions, and of course, stay ethical with those types of advancements?
I don't think that's out. It's not prime time yet. It's,
Mhm.
that something they're experimenting with. I think right now, what we offer our patients is we know that genetic accidents increases with age. So
Yeah.
that, when the egg and the sperm fertilize, there may be a mismatch. One chromosome gets dropped or an extra one gets tagged on.
Mhm.
And the new whole chromosome that comes out may not be compatible with life, and
Mm.
that
Okay.
will result in a pregnancy loss, either no pregnancy or pregnancy loss at 7 weeks, for instance, trisomy 7, or something like trisomy 13 that always results in a spontaneous loss around 12, 13 weeks. So you can see that, right? So when you see that, why would you knowingly want to implant an embryo that you know will always abort, right? Abortion, I mean, we call it a spontaneous abortion, the medical term. The late term is miscarriage, right? Going through a miscarriage is no easy thing either. So who wants to deliberately have to go through the agony of a miscarriage, all right? So sometimes you can use those tests to try to decrease the chance that someone will, you can't eliminate everything, but you can decrease the chance that someone will end up with an abortion, for instance. Not abortion, a miscarriage is the late term for that. Yes.
Yeah, if you do have the opportunity to know that ahead of time, that is, especially if they're already going through these steps to, have a baby. Yeah, I would definitely go that route as well. I would want to know, which embryos are viable. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
It's extremely interesting, and like my sister stated, like those are some things you want to know, because no one wants to go through the hardship or just the emotional anguish of losing, a baby.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's it takes an emotional toll on you can't eliminate all risks, but you can hopefully reduce some risks for patients. Yeah.
And I know you have probably similar stories within your book, and your book is filled with patient stories, real resilience, cultural truths, emotional journeys.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So how has becoming part of so many family stories, how has that changed you?
I like it. I think it keeps me humble, right? I think that, and I pray I never lose the awe that I feel. And this always started even when I was in medical school. I was blessed to be in a hospital. Emory, we did our OB rotations at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. And as students, I think it's one of the few hospitals that as medical students, you actually got to do deliveries on your own. And most medical schools, you don't even come near the delivery room. But I was able to deliver about 20 babies by myself back then. And there's something that transpires when you guide a child to life. It's a very, very surreal experience. You have to take a minute to process that this is a life coming out. So that awe never left. Now it's actually deepened, because guess what? I'm actually seeing that baby when it was still an egg and a sperm, right? So you've seen it and you go, wow, can you imagine that? That was a cell way back when. And more so when they come out and when they bring the babies back. Like in my neighborhood, where sometimes when I'll go to the grocery store, some of my patients live close by, and they go, Dr. Famuyiwa, and you hear something like, you see people come up to you, or I'll go to a Nigerian wedding or something, and someone comes right next to me and says, Dr. Famuyiwa, wow, this is my son that you helped me out. And you see this, 6'4" football player. One of my patients, when her kids, she had twins, when they went to kindergarten, she invited me to their kindergarten graduation. I got to go to their high school graduation. She told me when they got into college, which is a couple of years ago, so hopefully they'll call me when they graduate college. Yeah. So they send you pictures of all these milestones. And I think it's a humbling thing. I have been so blessed and privileged, really, to be part of their journey, part of their story. And I don't take that lightly. I don't take it for granted. I've been invited into their story, and I deeply respect that.
What a true blessing. That's miracle work. That's amazing that you get to see that from literal beginning to fruition of the blessing. Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah. To grown adults, can you imagine?
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't. I mean, we have our own connection to our children. Mm-hmm. So I try to imagine that feeling, and you get to feel it, times hundreds of, people walking around on this earth where people thought that they had no hope. So yes, that is such a blessing. What blessed hands you have. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
That's a blessing that keeps giving. And
Mhm.
I look at fertility as like this, like as I'm listening to you tell me about your blessings and from beginning to end, like fertility really is an emotional and spiritual and a
It
deep
is.
personal thing. And
Yes.
so, what are some of the emotional hurdles that you see most with your patients when they come to you?
Huh. Um, just going from it can happen to it can happen,
Mhm.
or even going from closure. I'll give you an experience. I had a patient who froze her eggs when she was like 38, 39, and she came back when she met the love of her life when she was 43, 44. And we thought her eggs, but they were no good. And she, of course, was very disappointed. And it was devastating for her. And then she sent me a picture last year and said after that happened, she and her husband adopted and they have two kids. And she says she has no regrets having gone through the journey. She was very grateful that we worked with her, we walked the step with her. She has come full closure in her life and feels so fulfilled and happy. And I like that joy for her,
Yeah.
right? Her journey was different and she was able to move on. Um, that is for me very amazing. Or I had a gentleman today, and they were a Hispanic couple, um, and I showed them the baby's heartbeat and it, galloping like a horse,
Yeah.
and he started crying because he said he never expected that he would be a father. That's the key thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be a father. I never thought I'd be a mom, or I never thought I'd be a parent. So to be part of that, I am humbled, really, really humbled. And also when I see, I have several patients who've done IVF once. They got pregnant, they froze their extra embryos, and they come back in 2 years, and we do another one. They work, and they come back in another 2 years, and now we have three to four kids, all from the first
Wow.
IVF cycle, and they keep seeking me out. Right?
Yeah.
I had a couple that moved to South Carolina, and they came all the way from. I said, "You don't have to come back. I can ship you embryos." Like, nope, we're coming back. This
Yeah.
is when, or I see a couple that saw my TikTok information. They were in was in Newport Beach, Virginia. It's far from where I am, and they would drive 2.5 hours to see. If I
Mm.
told them be here at 7 a.m., they were there. If
Yeah.
I said they were, we did a retrieval. We had to do it early in the morning at 6 a.m. They stayed overnight in the hotel. They were there, and they were um, so humble, so polite, so easy to work with, and um, again, that humbles me
Yeah.
when people come from so far and they're coming. I had a gentleman that came to see me. He was from Cameroon, couldn't even speak English well, and he had this piece of yellow paper, and it had my name on it. And he said, "Oh, Dr. Famuyiwa, somebody gave me your name in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and that's why I'm here.
Oh,
Please help me." Right?
yes.
So you got to be humble because people are trusting you with their most vulnerable
Yeah.
side, and you really have to respect that. Yeah,
Mm.
it's humbling.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I had done the Lord's work. I'll just say that. Are truly doing the Lord's work and just
Mhm. Thank you.
creating miracles. Definitely, literally creating miracles. Um, so we talked a lot about your patients, but of course, we want to know more about you and how do you refill your cup while holding space for so many hearts.
Yes, I like to read. I read a lot. I read far and wide. I read so many things. I might watch documentaries of history, like I like the Fall of Civilization
Yes.
documentary on YouTube. because I like to learn the history of what went into the way people think.
Mm.
And then I have wonderful children that probably are my biggest fans and cheerleaders.
Mhm.
So, and they would help me vet certain things, and we talk, and my relationship with them has deepened. Um, so, and I feel blessed that I have them. I have a wonderful husband who's also very supportive, and then my faith, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a very religious person, and I go to mass. I pray daily, and I feel that I need to have a special. I have my own connection with my maker, and that
Yes.
pours into me, and that's how I keep going.
Mm.
That's
Strong
beautiful.
foundation. Yes.
Right, exactly. A lot of reading and a lot of
Yeah.
continuing with learning because you're a life student. We're all students of life, so
Mhm.
learning continues. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask about some lifestyle choices like diet, stress, sleep, environment that can protect
Mm,
fertility long before someone
absolutely.
has children.
Look, that's huge. Nowadays, with legalized marijuana and cannabis, you go downtown some places, and if you're not careful, you're reeking of the whole thing. And when it first came out, everybody had this misguided notion that they're harmless. They're
Mm.
not. They're not. And each day, more and more science is coming out saying it affects the sperm, it affects the
Mhm.
eggs. Um, it's not harmless. It increases the risk of miscarriage rates. It increases
Okay.
the risk of aneuploidy. You get more pregnancy complications in people who regularly routinely use it. It does cause abnormal semen parameters. So it's not harmless. I tell my patients, well, you do whatever you want to do. But if you're trying
Yeah.
to get pregnant, how about we lay off that for now and heal your system? Another
Mm.
big thing that I talk about in my book is plastics, right? Microplastics. They're everywhere. They're in sperm, they're in testes, they're in placenta. We have them in our brain cells right now. So
Mhm.
they get so small they can actually unhinge the signals that control your hormonal balance, right?
Mm.
So don't eat hot food or hot beverage in a container that's plastic. If you have to heat your food, use glass. If you have to put something hot, use a steel cup or something, but not plastic that can, because you're drinking a little bit of the plastics. And then another thing I tell my patients is go look at your deodorant. If it has aluminum in it, toss it. Toss it. Get the aluminum free deodorant. Look at your makeup. Is it organic? Is it vegan based?
Mhm.
Right? Because whatever you lather on your skin is going right through your skin,
Yeah.
and you're getting some of that. Little things you can avoid, like phthalates that are in dryer lint. It's a lot of it, right? So you
Mm.
can eliminate that, and you get phthalates on, those thermal receipts. So you can't avoid it, but you can come home and wash your hands, right? And then alcohol, right? Alcohol does affect your egg and the sperm. So, if you're, imbibing in excess alcohol, it can affect, right? And other than causing other disease systems in your body. Another thing we found out is people who live near highways, so traffic related pollution, for instance. So you might
Wow.
want to get an air filter like asthmatics use to filter out the air
Mhm.
in where you live, because you're breathing all those toxic fumes and everything, and it is sipping into your system. So I actually have a whole chapter on what I call the exposomes, what your body is exposed to,
Mhm.
um, and how you can help yourself.
Mm. Yeah,
And I'm
definitely need that part.
yeah, you gotta read that.
I'm like, this would have saved me so much time. But speaking about lifestyle choices, things like that, for someone feeling the pressure of like age, timing, I know we spoke about finances or even just fear. What's the first step toward that clarity and getting on this journey of fertility planning?
So reach out to your OBGYN, your family practice, or go to a fertility clinic and say, just get me some preliminary tests. Now, I know it's hard, but we're blessed. I live in Maryland. I work out of Maryland, and Maryland has very broad fertility coverage. So you might also want to start with your insurance plan and find out for yourself what kind of coverage you have, because your insurance plan may cover you getting some initial evaluation, right? But you'll never know if you don't make those inquiries.
Okay.
I just had a couple that came to see me. They're not even trying right away. And I said, I got it. We're not going to do any treatment. We'll just do the preliminary baseline and just see where are you in the scheme of things. Get a semen analysis if you need to, because we know that sperm is declining every year. I mean, we have mutations in sperm, and there are things that can affect sperm. Know what your antral follicle count is. How much eggs do you have left? Some people don't even know they have fibroids until I put an ultrasound.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you know you have a fibroid? No one ever told me. I'm like, well, you got this Goomba right here sitting there, do some preliminary workup.
Yeah, that most women don't even realize why they're having such painful periods, things like that.
Yeah.
Like you said, until they do this mock-up of just, understanding what their body is doing.
Yes.
And as we come closer to the end, Dr. Famuyiwa, I do want to ask our final question.
Yes.
You have written a book, but if you could give the memoir of your life a title, what would it be and why?
If I could title my life's journey, wow, I would call it A Life of Blessings.
Oh, that's me.
I like that one. That's good.
A Life of Blessings.
Yeah.
Yes, you are definitely bringing so many blessings to other people. I know it's fulfilling for you, but what a blessing it is to have someone assist you with bringing life. Like you said, it's the most joyous occasion, something that we are innately born to do. And when you are met against that, wall of thinking that you have no hope for that, and you have ways to, assist us, even just talking about preliminary, medicine and what you should look for, what you should avoid. Definitely, I would concur. A life of blessings. Thank you so much.
And Dr. Yemi, I just wanted to take this time to just thank you. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your wisdom and the light that you bring to so many families daily.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And Soul Squad, please follow Montgomery Fertility Center. Grab the Quest for Fertility. It'll be out in March. And share this episode with someone who needs it. Your story, your healing, and your legacy matter. So let's stay on top of it. We're seeing our birth rates decline. That's why we were really excited to have the doctor on tonight. We want to see how we can get healthy and keep producing, healthy lifestyles and healthy families.
Right.
And did you want to end with anything? Let us know how we can reach you, a little bit about following your podcast. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Everybody can reach me on my website, Montgomery Fertility Center, all one word, montgomeryfertilitycenter.com. And from there, you'll see links to my podcast, The Fertile Talks, which is on every where you get your podcast, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube podcasts as well. My YouTube channel, I give a lot of videos to teach, and that's at Montgomery Fertility Center.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining another episode of Sister Soul Sessions. This was one for the books. I'm so glad that we are learning more and are able to assist and build legacies. Hope you guys all have a wonderful night.
Thank you for tuning in to Fertile Talks. We hope today's episode has provided you with valuable insights and support for your fertility journey. Remember, you are not alone. Now, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please simply leave us a comment. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with a friend. Your ratings, your shares, and your reviews are greatly appreciated and is going to help us serve more of our listening audience. Thank you once again. This is Dr. Famuyiwa.